their infernal codex. Thomas Greene was no ordinary book collector. He had a passion for the rare and the arcane, always on the lookout for texts that held the secrets of the past. His latest acquisition was his most exciting yet, a codex rumoured to have been written by Lucifer himself. The leather-bound book, with its intricate designs and faint smell of sulphur, arrived at his doorstep wrapped in thick black cloth. Thomas could hardly contain his excitement as he carefully unwrapped the codex. The cover was adorned with cryptic symbols and an inscription in Latin, Infernum Sapientiae, which he translated as Wisdom of Hell. He felt a shiver of anticipation as he opened the first page, the text written in an elegant flowing script. As Thomas began to study the codex, he found it contained knowledge of forbidden dark arts, spells, and rituals that promised unimaginable power. Despite a gnawing sense of foreboding, he was allured. One night, in a moment of reckless curiosity, he decided to test a simple spell designed to reveal hidden truths. The results were immediate and astonishing. He suddenly understood the true intentions of people around him and could see through their deceptions. Empowered and exhilarated, Thomas delved deeper into the codex, ignoring the increasing unease that gnawed at his conscience. Each use of the codex's power came with a price. Thomas began to experience disturbing visions and terrifying nightmares. He saw himself surrounded by flames, with shadowy figures whispering in an unknown language. His health deteriorated, and he became increasingly isolated, pushing away friends and loved ones who grew concerned about his obsession. One evening, after a particularly harrowing nightmare, Thomas decided to consult his friend and fellow collector, Victoria, who had a deep knowledge of occult artifacts. She was alarmed by the codex and warned him of its dark origins. According to legend, the codex was a conduit for Lucifer's influence, offering power at the cost of the user's soul. Despite Victoria's warnings, Thomas could not resist the codex's allure. He performed more complex rituals, each one further corrupting his spirit. He gained wealth and influence, manipulating events to his advantage, but his humanity was slipping away. His eyes grew cold, and his smile twisted, and an eerie darkness seemed to follow him. Victoria, determined to save her friend, began her own investigation into the codex. She discovered an ancient ritual that could sever the connection between Thomas and the infernal powers he had unleashed. But it was perilous and required the user of the codex or a person of pure heart to perform it. Victoria confronted Thomas, pleading with him to abandon the codex and perform the ritual. Consumed by the power and sensing her growing threat, Thomas refused, accusing her of jealousy and betrayal. Desperate, Victoria decided to proceed without his consent, hoping to save what was left of her friend's soul. On a stormy night, Victoria gathered the necessary items and began the ritual in Thomas's mansion, the codex at the center of a circle of protection. As she chanted the incantations, the house trembled, and souls consumed by the greed materialized, trying to stop her. Thomas, drawn by the commotion, entered the Rsus, his face contorted with rage and fear. A fierce struggle ensued. Thomas attacked Victoria, trying to disrupt the ritual, but she stood firm. Thomas, torn between his desire for power and the remnants of his humanity, watched in agony. As Victoria neared the ritual's climax, a final burst of energy from the codex knocked her to the ground. Victoria lay lifeless on the floor, her pure heart having absorbed the brunt of the ritual's power. Thomas, though freed from the Codex's influence, was left alone with the crushing weight of his actions. In the weeks that followed, Thomas was a broken man. The wealth and power he had gained meant nothing in the face of his overwhelming grief and guilt. He retreated into isolation, haunted by the memories of Victoria and the darkness he had unleashed. The story of the infernal Codex became a whispered legend among collectors, a grim reminder of the devastating price of greed. As he sat in his darkened study, staring at the empty space where the Codex once lay, Thomas realized the cruelest truth of all. In his relentless pursuit of power, he had lost the only thing that truly mattered: his humanity. It's not the demons that destroys us, but the insatiable, devouring shadow of our own greed.